Alright, there's a fish on there. That ain't a bluegill, unfortunately. Don't know what it is. I'm out of breath because I just had to run back to the truck to get my pliers because that's a little channel cat. Left my bag at the truck and I caught a bluegill. I'm out here trying to catch some bluegill for some catfish bait. That's a little channel cat there. First catfish of the year for me. Not very big, but it's the first one of the year, and sometimes the first one's the toughest one. We'll get him back in the water, and I think what I'm gonna do is probably get a bobber on both of these rods and try and hammer some bluegill. So there's the first bluegill of the year. This is what I ran back to the truck for. Get some pliers because I want that hook back. I'm not worried about injuring the fish so much, simply for the fact that I'm keeping them for catfish bait. But I want my hook back because I don't have a lot of these small bluegill hooks. And I just broke the line. I need to replace the line on all my rods. I haven't done that. There's my hook back. And there's the first bluegill of the year, and it's cold. But it sure feels good to get one caught. Alright, got that rig tied back on. All I'm doing here is just a simple worm and bobber setup using red worms. Not tossing out too far because the bites have kind of been coming up here a little bit close. I started out over there on the other side of the lake. I wasn't really having any luck as far as the fish catching was going, and then had all these other people come down and join me too. And not a big fan of fishing around other people, and especially not when I'm trying to film a video and talk on camera. It makes me feel a little silly. So I decided, of course I wasn't getting bit over there at all anyway, so decided to move. Had I been getting bit, I might have stuck around. But what I would love to do today, well, let me get this rod set down though. I'll tell you kind of what I'm out here doing. So what I would love to do today is get my cooler filled up. I'd love to hammer the bluegill, fill my cooler up with some bait fish. I think what I'm going to do is probably take some home and try to keep some frozen in the freezer. Frozen bluegill certainly is not my preferred bait. Fresh bluegill isn't even my preferred bait, but it's what's readily available. So I'd love to get my hands on some today, and I'd love to do it fast enough that I could get out and do some catfishing this afternoon. But my hope is, so my family and I moved over the winter, and so we're kind of in a new area, closer to family, so a lot of the catfishing that I'll be doing will be on familiar waters. But as far as locating and efficiently catching bait, it's going to be a little bit of a learning curve for me. So what I'd really like to do is kind of get an idea where these bait fish are, and try to load up. Watch my bobber just getting bit down there. Try to get loaded up on some of these bait fish, stock the freezer. That way when I get to those times of year where I'm kind of struggling to find bait, then I'll at least have something in there that I can utilize for catfish bait. So that's kind of what I'm doing today. I'd love to get loaded up on the bluegill, but I at least catch a few. Got the first and the second fish of the season here today, so that feels good. I'd love to catch a few more, have a little bit of fun with it, but hopefully be able to get out this afternoon and do some catfishing as well. Oh. There's one right there, so I don't know that one got on camera at all. That's kind of the challenge with filming this bait getting. If I can get on a good bite, I'll probably just leave the camera rolling, and it'll make it a lot easier to film. That one got it pretty deep again there too. May have to just go one rod for a while. It might be too much to try and work two. making a mess over here, guys. Had something biting on the bobber, but I can't get to it because I've got a mess. Well, I was trying to show you, see if I can find it again. Oh, there it is. Come here. First bass of the year. Had him biting on my line, and I went to set the hook and pulled him clear out of the water, but never even got the hook set. Once again, don't know if the camera had time to get on or not, but that was on the on the line that was just sitting out there, sinker. Nice looking bluegill going in the bucket. So like I said, that one was on the line. I had a line cast out just on a sinker, just like I had before when I caught that catfish. I tried for a while juggling 2 lines with bobbers, because that was how I was getting bit there at the start, catching these bluegill, which is really what I came out here to catch, is to load up on some bluegill and get some catfish bait. So I tried to juggle those 2 lines with bobbers for a little while, but the wind's blowing in on me, and I need to keep that line taut to be able to get a good hook set. And so I kind of found that trying to juggle the 2 lines and be able to keep that line taut and set the hooks just really wasn't feasible. So I went ahead and cast that line back out, just on a little sinker there with a worm. Just have another line in the water and see what I might catch on it. Got a bluegill on it that time. And then I've just been working this bobber. Hadn't been too long, but just been working this bobber on 1 rod so I can keep that line taut and make sure I'm getting good hook sets and not missing a bunch of fish. Missed him that time. Gonna have a bunch of fish on this video that you don't get to see me catch, but at least you can see that I did catch it. Came over and tossed my bobber just by that limb laying in the water there and got that green sunfish. Put him in the bucket, try and catch another. Well, that kind of screwed up my other line there. Got my line crossed, but I think that there's crappie. Just kind of neat, and I'm pretty sure this lake here has no limit and no length limit on crappie, so that one there is going in the bucket. Make good catfish bait. Well, folks, we haven't loaded up on bait, but we do have a few bluegill in the bucket. I think 6 bluegill, 1 green sunfish, and we got that 1 little crappie too. So definitely have enough bait for an afternoon catfishing trip. So I think what I'm gonna do is give it just a few more minutes here, and then I'm gonna pack up, and we're getting into the afternoon now. I'm gonna head out and see if I can catch the first river cat of the year. So that's why I'm out here getting baited, so I can do some catfishing. I'd really rather be catfishing than fishing a worm and a bobber here at a community pond with a bunch of people around. So like I said, a few more minutes. Didn't load up on bait, but I did get some bait, which is better than I've done. I've been out a couple weekends prior to this and just haven't done any good. So hopefully as we get on through the year, I've got more bait for today than what I'll use today, so I've already started a little bit of a stockpile for the freezer just to have on hand when times get tough, probably here in the dog days of summer, and I'm not able to get my hands on any bait. And I'll keep doing that as I catch some bluegill and crappie throughout the year here. I'll hang on to a few and store them in the freezer and just make sure that I'm always stocked so I can get out and do some catfishing whenever I want to. So that's the plan for now. See if we get any more bait, and then we'll head out and hit the river. Well, we did get 1 more bluegill there that of course you guys didn't see me catch, so we'll probably, I mean, it's a small one, but we'll probably call that it, and pack up, get out of here, hit the river, see if we can catch some catfish. First river cats of the year. Hey guys, down at the river now, following bait fishing trip this morning. The decision whether this portion of the trip is going to get tacked on to the end of my bait fishing trip from this morning is yet to be made. I suppose I'll let the fish here on the river dictate that. If we have a crazy trip and catch a bunch of fish, then I suppose we'll have to split them out. But otherwise, so I got a wasp flying around here. Otherwise, we may just end up tacking this footage on to the end of that trip from this morning. But as you can see, I'm just fishing a bend in the river, and this should be a fairly deep hole, and the river is extremely shallow compared to what it typically would be. We've had a couple years now of pretty severe drought, and so they haven't been letting any water out of the reservoir. Haven't had any rain to get the river flowing, so we're really low. So I think this year, unless we do end up getting some rains, it's going to be really critical that I locate places like this, these deeper holes. I think the fish are going to be hunkered down in those holes, maybe even more so than they normally are. But so my plan for today is to cast baits out here. I have never fished this spot before. I have been wanting to and planning to. This will be my first time. Even if we don't catch anything down here today, you will see me down here again in upcoming videos this year. It just looks like too great of a location to not hold fish. This section of the river right here, even where we're low like we are right now, is at least twice as wide as what the river normally would be on a normal stretch. So it's really a very small river. But this is a very deep hole for this particular body of water, so I'm looking forward to getting baits out here and see what we can catch. All right guys, so here's the bait going out, the rig I'm sending out. So this is just a really small chunk of bluegill. I got that on an 8/0 circle hook, about a 15-inch leader to a swivel, and an egg sinker, a 3-ounce egg sinker. So this is just a basic Carolina rig. I like to keep my rigs as simple as possible. And just spend more time fishing and less time messing with my tackle and my rigs. So this small hunk of bluegill here is not going to deter the 3 and 4 pound channel cats from biting and from messing with my baits, and that's okay. That's not really what my goal was in going out to get cut bait for this trip or for any of my trips. Fishing on the river like I am, I tend not to get a ton of action. The bite typically tends to be somewhat slow out here on the river, and so I'm okay with having those 3 and 4 pound channel cats taking my baits. It gives me something to do while I'm trying to pass the time and waiting for a bigger fish to come along. But really, you know, I could have come down here today with a box of worms and caught those 3-4 pound channel cats and not had to go spend a bunch of time this morning trying to get bait. But really what I'm trying to do with the cut bait is I want to have a bait on the hook at all times that I am confident that if and when a big fish does come around, that bait's going to get their attention and I'll have an opportunity of catching that fish. I don't feel confident that I'll have that opportunity if I'm just down here fishing with worms. Now, after having said that, I have caught usually channel cats, but some very big channel cats on night crawlers, and especially this time, well, maybe a little bit farther into the spring, but typically in the spring months, as the bite starts heating up, I will catch some really nice channel cats on night crawlers. But I want to have a bait out that I am confident that any fish, flathead or channel, that swims through here is going to be intrigued by and interested in. And so I'm not so concerned about the size of these baits. Obviously a big bait is good for a big fish, but I think a big fish will be interested in this cut bait here, less confident that they would be interested if all I had out here was worms. So that's why I spent the time to try and catch the bait. I like to have, if I can't have a live bait, at least have a cut bait out on the line. There's the next bait. That's a crappie head going out. That's the only crappie I got. Hopefully I get some more crappie this year as I try to stock the freezer and keep some baits on hand. I'd like to have something other than bluegill. And it's always nice to have a little bit of variety in your baits. Give the fish an option down there. So get that crappie head out. That's the only one I've got, and we'll have our lines in. We'll just be a waiting game now. Well guys, I'm getting ready to reel my lines in. I've given it about an hour down here, nothing going on yet. Catfish wise anyway, we've got turtles and carp and gar surfacing all around us, so it's just a matter of time until the catfishing starts picking up as well, but they tend to be a little bit slower, and I'd say give it 3 weeks to a month here and the bite's going to be turned on. So I'll definitely be back down here, and you'll see me down here again this year, and we'll be, I would venture to guess, pulling some pretty big fish out of this hole. I mean, this is a heck of a hole for this body of water. I'm really looking forward to seeing what we pull out of here, but for today, nothing actively feeding down in the hole at the moment. Probably what I should do is just ride it out here, but instead of doing what I should do, I'm going to reel my lines up. I'm going to go hit a different spot and see if there's something going on in a different hole on a different part of the river. But I think what I'm going to do for video purposes is go ahead and call this the closing of the video. If I do happen to catch a fish at a new location, then I'll tack that on here at the end of the video. If not, you know, we're starting to catch some fish, things are starting to come alive, waking up here for spring, but you know, we're just not quite there yet. So just give a little bit of time, hang in there with me. I appreciate you guys watching this one, and we'll see you in the next one. We'll be catching catfish soon.